You might think that Israel is a large country, but actually it's quite small, both in size and population, about 8 million in 2015. On work group 5, Yoram and myself, Nir Sharaby, will focus on the mass transit projects in Tel Aviv, a project that we were planning for the government. We were working with the government closely on the strategic public transport plan for the horizon of 2040 and 2060. In Israel, there are 4 major metropolitans, with Tel Aviv being the biggest, about this area. Haifa in the north, Jerusalem in the center, and Beersheba in the south. Tel Aviv is about half of the population of Israel, about almost 4 million people. 50% of the employment in the country is in this small area with a high growth rate. The public transport strategic plans that we have been working with the government on for the past 5 years has few layers, which is the national layer, the other metropolitans, but I'll focus on the Tel Aviv mass transit system. There are other layers that are being studied and planned currently that are the bus system, the busways, pedestrians, a little bit getting there, and the bike lanes that are currently being planned, and of course roads and transport policy that will come eventually as part of the planning, but I will try to focus only on the mass transit aspects, and we'll try to see how we try to promote also equity consideration during the planning of the mass transit system. Just as a comparison, we compared Tel Aviv today to Madrid and Berlin, which has about the same population that Tel Aviv should be in 2040, according to current trends. And if you look at the motorized trips, and we have just excluded all the walking and cycling and all the shorter trips, you can see that in Tel Aviv the transit usage is dropping to the area of less than 20%. Most of the transit, which is about 1 million trips per day, is done by buses, more than 300 lines, I think, low frequencies and very long travel times, also compared to the car travel times. And when you look at the model split in Madrid and Berlin, for example, about 50%, part of the strategic plan was to see where we are now and how the future mobility of the metropolitan should be, and we thought that the basis of high usage of public transport should be the base, and then all the other layers should follow. So we aimed for about 40% usage, which would mean that we'll have a more sustainable system of shared, of public transport and roads. If you look at the population on this side, and you have the population today and in 2040, so you see that there is an urban area which is about this size, with Tel Aviv city is not such a big city, but this urban area is quite big, and then the outer ring is more scattered. But the employment is also looks something interesting, that the CBD is quite big in terms of the number of employment concentrated there. There's almost another CBD starting to build here, but there are 10 main employment areas and more than 30 others that are scattered in the metropolitan area. And when we compared Tel Aviv to Madrid mass transit system, this is Tel Aviv today with the line that is currently under construction. So one might think that we need more. This is not sufficient. And excuse me for Barcelona, but I'll get there in short. So we compare to many other cities, but I'm just giving 2 examples. So this is Tel Aviv and Berlin. So again, it looks like we could do some work on that. And this is the forecast that we've done as part of the analysis. This is the road network. And the purple and the red lines showing you the congestion in the road network on 2040 PKM. That made us understand that the aim of the project is not to solve the congestion in the metropolitan area. What we wanted to do is to build a transit system that will give good mobility and good quality of life, and probably that would remain the same colors, whatever we do with the transit system, but we'll give a good option for today and also compared to the road network. So we've set strategic goals for the plan, which I'm not going to go over them, but based on these goals, we have accessibility and coverage goals that we're trying to find the corridors in the metropolitan which we want the mass transit to go through. So these are the population and employment areas, and these circles represent city centers, hospitals, and other places that we want to go through and give them service. So we identified the corridors that we want to service in the whole urban area of the metropolitan. But that wasn't enough. It looks like too radial and not giving us the network shape that we wanted. So we checked few different type of network shapes. Eventually we found that one thing is missing. So we have a network looks like more that can compete with the road network, and that is the ring line that completes the radial web network shape and gives a lot of opportunities of how to move with public transport over the distance and create a metropolitan system and not a local system. So the whole metropolitan area, the whole urban area is now more connected. And we also have few other items that are on the third and fourth rings that will service that. And so this ring is a metro line, but we also have like an outer ring serviced with a BRT. And there's another layer that is not shown on the map with more BRTs serving that area. So there are more layers to this plan. And also, as I explained, there are other features of the plan that I'm not going to get into. I couldn't resist, so I had to show Tel Aviv compared to Barcelona, because we did comparison of many cities that have mass transit system, and like Tel Aviv are bounded by the sea in one side. On the other side, we don't have mountain like in Barcelona, but the shape is similar. So I tried to look of how the network shape looks like, and actually Barcelona is not so similar to what we have come up with, but there are some other cities that looks more like the network that we've chose to Tel Aviv based on the characteristics of the demand that we've examined. Well, excuse me for putting Barcelona on the side, of course, just to see it in our perspective. Well, the Multicriteria, I wanted to show the whole table of the final analysis, which came after the cost benefit and the goal, the objectives that the government has set. And I wanted to show the whole table just to give a perspective where the equity comes in. Because it was one of the first stages that we could have reached high-ranking officials in the government and make them put in the Multicriteria equity consideration, but it's only one line. We did much more analysis than that, but eventually it comes in one line out of almost 20. But there are some other aspects here that represent equity in some way, but let me go through a few things that would be interesting. First of all, if you look at the economics, transportation, environment and quality of life, and feasibility, which means that how fast can we deliver the system, which was a main concern in Israel, as you've seen in the previous slides. We need it fast. So in the economics, we put the cost benefit of the alternatives. And what you can see is that, if you look at this line, is that, and the alternatives up here, the alternatives are ranking from the least expensive ones to the more expensive one, with the M5 being a new plan with only metro lines with some BRTs. And the C alternatives are representing a combined alternative of the existing plan and with few metro lines. So this is with 2 metro lines and 3 metro lines. But what you can see is that if I would choose by the cost benefit, then I would miss the equity index, which was 60 minutes accessibility for weak populations to job. That's what we've decided to put here. And you can see that there is a big difference in the accessibility between 38 to 57, and our target was 60. So, and we thought that with 3 metro lines we can somehow get there closer, but these would be the least, the lower cost, benefit cost ratios of the other alternatives. But if you look at the ranking of the multi-criteria analysis, then it looks like, first of all, the government has given only 30% to economics and 40% to transportation quality of life, which was good in our opinion. And if you look that on the final ranking of the base weights of the multi-criteria analysis, then it looks like with the 3 metro lines and some lines from the existing plan, we can get a good enough system that will meet the strategic goals, but also rank high in the multi-criteria analysis. I'll just give a short analysis of accessibility, just to show that the new system, if you look at the existing plan, it gives 45 minutes and 1 hour accessibility in a local way, but some to the center from the east. It is much larger in an hour, and the dark color is more than an hour. So more than an hour, it's like not for me. And these would be our accessibility goals within 1 hour. And you can see that with 3 or 5 lines, metro lines additional, we can reach good metropolitan accessibility from the east. You can see that also from the center, it extended to the second ring in a more even way and more equitable way to other cities. And this is from the north. You can also see that this is more local, and this reaches more destinations in the upper north and the center part of the metropolitan. And this is accessibility to employment, and you can see that they are quite similar in the effect and extended to much larger area than the existing plan. Also, in terms of usage of the system, it looks like we're reaching more parts, we're covering more areas, and we're getting more nice in distribution with the 5 lines. A little less nicer distribution over the 3 lines, but still working well. Where here you see that it's limited to the areas where the service is, and not cover all the second ring cities altogether. So in terms of how much we're buying, how much accessibility we're buying. So this is the price in billions, but billion shekels, which almost will be 4 shekels for 1 euro, and dropping recently. Our target was 60%, and we need to invest at least from here to get somewhere close to our accessibility goal. So about 200 billion, 50 billion euros for the whole system. So this is one layer of the strategic public transport plan. And we'll focus on the work group 5 on how much equity did we consider? Is it enough? Do we need to extend of how much we expose the government to such analysis? Is the traditional planning of mass transit or transit system should take into account a lot of measures, like you've seen in the table. There were other government representative in the committee, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Interior in charge of the housing and planning. They all had some criteria that they wanted to meet. So is it good to just diverse on over a lot of criteria, or should we focus this analysis on that and this analysis on that? So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I think that in the work group we'll have to think about this. So thank you, and other questions I'll be happy to answer.